Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is that you're listening to this latest episode of TurfCast podcast, episode 49, I believe it is we're on now. Everyone who's just clicked on the link will actually know because it'll say it on there. I obviously don't do that till afterwards. I don't even check. We should probably start checking. But I think it's episode 49 because I remember thinking to myself, right, we'll get to episode 50, then maybe have a bit of a couple of weeks off for summer, then start next season. But obviously, Simon's here as usual. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Another week.
Another week down. Into the summer, sort of like, what's the word?
69.
Like, lull. Yeah,
or
no,
49.
no.
49.
into the summer lull where nothing happens in terms of football. But I don't feel as bad about that now because obviously we just had so long off from March until early June. That's going to be a lot longer than what this is. It's going to be like 8 to 12 weeks until the season's back again. But I just think at the minute, obviously we've had so much football, and now we've got nothing in terms of Burnley, which is bad for us because we have actually zero content to talk about. But we'll get onto that absolute waffle in a bit because we have nothing to talk about. But now we have Europa League starts again today, and then I believe the Champions League starts either tomorrow or next week. I think it's next week actually, Champions League, isn't it? So there's still some football, but we're into the summer lull now, which is not good.
No, I still think we should do sort of like a Super Bowl-esque. What's the word I would? I come up with a perfect analogy before, but basically getting like a mini tournament in for quarterfinal onwards of the the shit cups that no one cares about, so the League Cup and the Europa League and things like that. That the biggest, most things don't care about anymore unless you're in it. You're not really arsed. So as a spectator, I think it'd be really cool to sort of like take this idea forward in the future and have sort of like your round 16 onwards as like a 2-week tournament.
Well, I remember in a podcast, obviously you're referring to what you said in a podcast a few weeks ago, I think at the start of lockdown, where a couple of people, Graham Jennings, I seem to remember was one of them, got in touch and said, yeah, it's a good idea from Simon. Obviously what you were saying was the latter stages of like the FA Cup and the League Cup, just get rid of them being on in the season, get this Premier League and Championship in that season's finished like 3 or 4 weeks earlier because there's no breaks for these cups, and then just have a big sort of like mini tournament from, like you say, the round 16 onwards so people can just watch a bit of football in the summer and have stuff like that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so like towards the back end of the season when you've got your playoff period where it happens in like the last 2 weeks while the Premier League runs itself out.
Yeah,
maybe sort of like make amend at a similar time and then have a League Cup. Not so much. I think the FA Cup should still run through the season because that's the main cup that everyone wants to win. If you are sort of like it's serious about it, you want to win that one. But the League Cup, for example, Europa League, even if you want to do it in Europe, to make them more exciting and make clubs take it a bit more seriously, maybe, like you said, do a round of 60 or a quarterfinals onwards. They should do like a week of it.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea if you extend it over like 2-3 weeks rather than just a week, because then you can just finish the season. Then everyone who's still left in it can just concentrate on that, and everyone who's not, they get a longer break, for example, and more time to potentially like recover and stuff. In terms of transfer windows, I'd leave it as it is and not open it until after these mini tournaments are done. So then the teams who are out don't get like a bit of an advantage, because then that could make teams think, well, we don't want to be in League Cup last 16 because then we have to do this mini tournament, whereas we want to be able to be off and looking at players. But I think it's a good idea, to be honest. I think it'd definitely give the League Cup a bit more pizzazz.
Yeah, because it'd be cool, wouldn't it? Like Americanize it a little bit, and you got the League Cup weekend, and then have it like a proper do of it. But I think it'd make it cool. And the first teamers that are playing all season, it's not going to affect them because they could still be shipped off home. They could say, right, you've done your season now. It's the League Cup team that's got to stay on for the week or two. And if you are staying on for that League Cup weekend, you're not going to be really that bothered about it because you actually succeed and you've already done well to get to that point.
I think it's something, like I said, it's going to be happening now with the Europa League and the Champions League, so it'll be interesting to see how this works. And it could be something to see that people maybe carry on, because obviously if you look at the 5 sub situation, that was something that was brought in because of the break in the season and stuff, and now because the games are so close, but now that's going to be continued into next season. So it could be one of these things that we see continue into next season, like the 5 sub rule.
It's like the League Cup, for example, just to add more sort of fuel to it, is when does it finish? It finishes in like the end of January, doesn't it? The League Cup.
Normally like second week in Feb, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. So it's like the finals around then, and it's done. And it's Like you said, it's a team where they're sending out the second team because of the congestion between the League Cup, the FA Cup, and the actual league at Christmas. Around that period of time, you've got to put out a second team. So maybe the first teamers would take it more seriously if it was in a different time of the season.
Yeah, maybe. Before we continue, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Sponsors.
Leave that one there.
Yeah, we'll leave that one. Sponsors, Pitch Sports. Obviously, big shout out to them. They've continued to sponsor us throughout the entire lockdown period, despite what I presume would have been sort of like financial worries and stuff.
They can sponsor me a water bottle as well.
They could send some water bottles off, but I think they do enough, to be fair. Continues to do it. And as far as I'm aware, they're going to still be doing it next season. We'll have more announcements on that as and when we have it. But big shout out to them. If you haven't already, please go and download the app. As you can see on the thing at the bottom of your screen now, if you're watching on the on YouTube or on the Premier on Facebook, you can download it from the App Store and the Google Play Store. And it's sort of like a fan hub and things like that. But What we normally do is we normally do a question as well on the Pitch Sport app. Now, I haven't sent mine in yet, so there isn't currently one on there. But what we're going to do, I'm going to incorporate some of this week's podcast into the Pitch Sport question, because I know sometimes friends and stuff have rang me up, going, "Oh, what are you on about on that bit?" Or my opinion on this bit would have been this. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to talk about something, and then I'm going to ask my question regarding this matter. And I'll ask Simon first. Obviously, it's the end of the season. As you can tell, we've been waffling on about Simon's plans for the domestic cups that we've already mentioned about 3-4 weeks ago. So that just shows that we have absolutely zero content because nothing's happening. It's Burnley transfer windows and stuff, so not much is happening. It's just how it is. But one of the things that people do like to talk about is people that could come in and more so areas that we need to strengthen. So that's going to be my question to you, Simon, now, and it will also be the question on the Pitch Sport app. So if you want to go and answer the question on the Pitch Sport app now and then come back to the podcast or listen to our views and then go and answer it yourself, you can do. But I want to ask you, Simon, if you could just choose one area, just one area now, one position in Burnley's side to strengthen, what area would you pick?
I go wing. I've left wing, right wing. Most wingers play both sides these days. Are both versatile. I'll go wing, mate. That would be my first port of call because I think we've shown our versatility is better than we actually realised it was. Versatility, our depth is better than we actually thought it were. But playing Peters in left midfield for the last 3 or 4 games shows the desperation on the wing that we're having, and he did a really good job, to be fair to him. This is not to criticise him, but that would probably be the first thing that stands out to me is the wings.
Yeah, I think when you look, obviously Dwight McNeil's probably one of, if not the first name on the team sheet at the minute. The lad's class, and the fact that he's coming to our side and done really, really well is a credit to him. But apart from that, you have players like Goodmanson, who is good on his day, but obviously misses far too many games. You have Brady, similar sort of matter, and then obviously you've got Peters as well and things like that coming in who isn't a winger. So I think with Dwight, you see him sometimes playing on both wings, don't you? And he can play behind the front too as well. I've seen people do. So I'd like to bring someone in, probably someone that you can bring on for the left or for the right, and then you can have him and Dwight swapping on either side. But yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd go winger for me as well.
Oh yeah, I think a good old-fashioned winger, because like you said, so when we think about it, you think, oh well, you've got Brady, you've got Goodmanson, you've got McNeil, but actually, well, there's 3, and 2 of them are going to be playing. So I prefer Dwight to go in the middle, and then when you want to change that up, then you're back down to your 2. And if they're injured, you've got Peters in. Lennon's gone. I think we desperately. Hendrick's gone. I think we desperately need a proper winger, not a makeshift winger. Unfortunately, no disrespect to the people that have done it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, because Josh Brownell played on the wing as well before Corky got injured and they had to go in the middle. So a few different people have played there recently, especially since Hendrick left, because I think it was a case of. That was a very loud drink, by the way. I think it was a case of Dwight McNeil would play on one, and then normally it'd be like the likes of Hendrick or Aaron Lennon, who have both now left. Whether we thought they were good or not, that's a different matter. That's 2 people missing from the position that we need. So we now have Dwight McNeil, as you've mentioned, Johan and Robbie Brady, who are out-and-out players in that position. There's only 3, but like you said, 2 are going to be playing. So you need at least 2 backup in case you get 2 injuries. But as it stands, we have 2 people in that 3 that are literally constantly always injured anyway. So I'd 100% agree with it. I've seen a lot of people saying that right back's their main thing. I don't even think at the minute right back necessary. I can understand bringing a young right back in for in the next few years, but I wouldn't necessarily be too fussed if we didn't sign a right back in the summer. Admittedly, the aging
centre half before a right back.
Yeah, the aging squad issue. You want to sort of like get some young blood in now for right back. So in a couple of years, we have someone to step in when Loughton and Bardo have left or out of form or injured or whatever. But I think for me, definitely winger, definitely.
Yeah, we're not a club that can have 3 to 4 in every position. We have to have 2 in every position first, and then, like you said, you've got your first, and you've got your injured, and then you've got your subs as well. And I just think we've got 2 seasoned professionals at the right back that can both do a job. We've got 2 left backs that can both do a job. Peters, as you know, he's gone on. He's probably got better as the season's gone on for me. And then we haven't really got a centre half other than Long. And as good as Long were at the first bit, you know, he got heavily criticised for one Connolly getting around the back of him, and that rate that we've all put him back on the bench. So do we need another centre half before we need a wing back?
100%. Well, we definitely need another centre half. I think they were the 2 positions for me that I thought we would have debated about, but we both just agreed on wing anyway. But I thought it'd be a case of one of us would say wing, one of us would say centre half, because obviously you've got to look at the Gibson situation. He's never going to put on a Burnley shirt again. That's very, very unlikely to happen. If not, I'd put my house on it. And then you've got the likes of Tarket and me, who are obviously a class, but they're just one long-term injury away from us being exposed. So you definitely need someone to come in. I know some people will say that they feel Kevin Long's appropriate and he played well, and you've just said it all perfectly. Like, he made that one mistake and that's it. We all started slagging him off. We say we all started slagging him off. It was namely me. It was namely just me that started slagging him off.
No, there was a few. I said it.
But
I see you on Twitter.
Yeah, it's one of them though, isn't it? Like that Connolly wouldn't have got around me and Tarky like that. He just wouldn't have got around him if I'd been in the stands or they'd have won the tackle. So it's just one of them. Like, I was just going to say whether he needs a bit more time, but how long he's been here long enough? You know what I mean? He's been here long enough, so it's decent enough for backup. If Me's going to be out for 2-3 games, but if someone does a cruciate and we're going to rely on Kevin Long for the rest of the season, then I think we'd be a little bit screwed. So we do need a centre half.
Yeah, I can't agree anymore with that. I've seen there's a link with some strikers like Pookie, for example. He's probably the last position I would start buying people. He's up front. But then again, I said that we bought 4 goalkeepers and we had a great year that year, didn't we?
Yeah, it's one of them. I don't know if your dog's like making a chew noise or something in your house. I can hear some sort of like weird blowy noise. Unless it's outside, It might be a bird. I'm not sure. Could be on my end. Hopefully that's not being picked up on the pod. No, or it might not be being picked. If it's outside the window, it'll be fine. Anyway, but yeah, that's another thing I do want to talk about, because we have been linked with a lot of forwards. We've been linked with Dina. We've been linked with Pookie, as you say. And we've also been linked with Ollie Watkins from Brentford as well. Now, the only way that I could see a forward coming in is if someone's going to leave, because as you mentioned, we've got 4. We've got obviously Wood, we've got Jay, we've got Shithouse, and we've got Vids. I think that's 4 people. Wood and Barnes are very similar. I think Jay offers something a little bit different, but I know a lot of people like to put him in the same category as the other 2. But I think Jay offers something different myself. Then Vidra offers something totally different, who's an impact player from the bench. So I think the only way that someone like Pookie or Dina or Watkins is going to come in is if someone's leaving. And now my worry is, I'm not necessarily worried, but maybe if anyone's going to leave, I think it'd be Vidra, because I think I'm right in saying he's only got 1 year left on his contract. And if I were Vidra and in a year, Sean Dyche said, right, do you want to stay at this club and carry on being sort of like a bit part, sort of like player? I'm not sure he'd sign an extension on his contract. So I think maybe the club might look to offload him now in the summer, bring someone else in to sort of like to make some money on him.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if they're the kind of players I'd replace a Vidra with. Another worry, like you said about the lack of wingers, is you know Jay can play on the left. And cut in. Are they going to start bringing a striker in and think, fuck getting a winger, we'll just have Jay play narrow? Because he likes crossing it from wing back positions as opposed to wingers anyway. So
yeah, it's one of them though. Like, if you want to do it the cheap option, then yeah, that could be something you could look at. But I think I can't see him doing it the cheap way again this summer. Like, surely the fans will just come down on them. Like, unless the rumours are true that they're desperate to sell and they don't want to put any of their own money in it again. Like, they'll only buy if they sell players and use them funds. But Jay's done so well this season, playing up top as and when required, and then it ended probably making the position his own. With I'd say now the first 2 on the team sheet are Wood and Jay up top. I can't see Barnsley getting back in, to be honest. I think if the club then decided, despite Jay's brilliant season, to then say sack it, we'll put Wood and Barnes up top and Jay can play on the wing. I think a lot of fans will be very pissed off. I know I would be.
Should we play a game of Devil's Advocate?
Go on then. I'll let you start.
So we're what 8 weeks away now, and today has been announced that Nick Pope and Tarkowski have both been sold at 50 million a pop. So they've gone. We've got 100 million. The board probably knowing Burnley will say, well, you can have 50 of it back, if that, to spend. So where are we going there? Number one in the league, and then secondly, players.
Well, if I think I said it to you off podcast, obviously on the phone this week, didn't I? There's 3 main players in this squad for me. You could stretch it 4, but the main spine of the team for me is Nick Pope, James Tarkowski, and Chris Wood. You could argue Dwight McNeil could possibly be in there, but I think if you sold.
Ben?
No, I think Tarky for me. I think, like I said, the main spine of that team.
Yeah,
I think we could sell Ben and recover from it, but I don't think we could sell Tarky and recover from it, or potentially finish. Potentially finish 17th. You know what I mean? Potentially finish 17th if we sold Tarky, but if we sold 2 of them players like Tarky and Wood, Pope and Wood, or as is now being devil's advocate. Pope and Tarky, then you're not going to recover from that, are you? Even if they put 100 million quid back into that squad, because these new players have got to take time to find their way into the Premier League if they've not played in the Premier League already. And knowing Burnley, they don't sign people from other Premier League clubs, do they? It's just because they can't afford the wages. So you've got to come up from the lower leagues or from Europe, again, which is something we just don't do. Then they've got to learn the way that we play, especially if we're getting rid of the 2 of the defenders. 2 of the 5 defenders in Tarky and Pope. What our main game is the compact defending stuff. Look at how team defenders sometimes struggle when they leave. Roy Keane, Marco Keane obviously struggled for a little bit when he left for Tottenham. He's getting better, to be fair, and things like that. So I think for me, if we sold them 2, we finish bottom. Regardless of who we bring in, but I can't. Not surely the club isn't that stupid to sell them to, even for £100 million. And you know what? This is actually annoys me a little bit because I've seen a few people on the social saying, right, why don't we sell Pope and Talker, get 100 million quid and just build a brilliant squad? Like, why? We have a good squad that's finishing 10th now. What's the point? What is the point of selling 2 of our main assets, if not the 2? In fact, the 2 main assets apart from Dwight McNeil, probably. And then just trying to rebuild a squad. We have the spine of the team now. Build the squad around the spine of the team that have now. Build it around Pope, build it around Tarky, build it around Wood, me, McNeil, all these players. Get little players now to come in and stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't really see the logic in selling them 2 players. You could recover at selling 1. You could recover at selling 1. Like have a sort of like a. What do they say it when you have like a season where you're not as good, but you're just going to kick on the season afterwards? You know what I mean? Like one of them seasons, like a recovery season. I can't remember what it's called. But one of them. But you sell 2 of them. You're gone 100% relegated, in my opinion. What about you?
Yeah, no, I do agree to a level. I think that it'd be a completely different target for the season. It wouldn't be the same target as say today.
That's simple as that. It'd be stay up, for love of God, stay up sort of thing. Like the board.
Today's target. Yeah. Today's target is try and finish it top half, potential, and see where that takes you for Europa League, etc. Tomorrow's target, should that have happened, it would be stay alive, keep your heads above the water. But Burnley Football Club, I mean, I don't owe the club any favours anyway. But the actual club must be rich and powerful enough and controlled enough now within the finances to say this is our budget, and it's far more than what we've been getting in previous years, irrelevant of selling these players. And like you just said, and the only reason I'm bringing that up is because you said about building around the players and building around your span of your players. If we want to progress now, we need to see a serious investment to say this is what we want from you, and this is the money that we're going to prepare for it. Because every year you survive in the Premier League, you get 100 million. I'm just throwing numbers about. I don't know what the numbers are, but you get 100 million, and then we spend X amount of it. Now we're still spending, a new promoted club. We're not spending a championship. Granted that we are above championship, so wages and things now, but only just. We're on like that club that's just come up. So when do we start seeing that tip? When do we start seeing the tide of we are a Premier League side pushing on? When do we start seeing your budgets that? I'm not saying it always works, and this is another podcast. But right now, I want to see some excitement in the transfer window. Whether it's a championship player that's a starlet, I'm sick of seeing other clubs getting the next best thing out of the championship. I want to see us getting it and putting 15 to 18 million down. Why are we offering 12 million and they say we want 15, and then we let Sheffield United take them instead? That I want to see some serious investment.
I agree with you. It's one thing that we've always said. I think I said it on the last podcast. I want us. Now's the time. We had the chance when we finished 7th. We blew it. That was a chance to get to the next level. We have a lesser chance to it, obviously, than what we did back then. But we have that chance again now to say, look, we are a top half Premier League club. We have people that play for England or will be playing for England, hopefully, in Nick Pope and should be Tarkowski and Dwight McNeil and stuff like that. And or you can say things like, look, we developed players like Tom Heaton, who went on to play for England and do really well and moved to Aston Villa, admittedly, because obviously he wanted to stay. That's another thing. And then people like Dwight McNeil and Danny Ings, who then ended up going to Liverpool and then Southampton, and then like Dwight McNeil and Charlie Taylor.
Yeah.
You know, Andre Gray as well. Like you bring these people, just say to us, look at this club. This is what we do. I don't understand why you can't go to Brentford and say, right, if do you want, and I don't particularly think we should be signing Ollie Watkins, because as I've said earlier, I think the strikers is probably where we're strongest in the department, really, in terms of depth and quality. But for example, if we wanted Ollie Watkins, why couldn't we just go up to him and say, right, how much? They say 18 million quid. We say, admittedly, try and haggle him, yeah. But I just know that he has an 18 million pound release clause according to Sky Sports now that they're not in the Premier League. So try and get that deal done, and just Ollie Watkins should be like, yeah, that's Burnley Football Club. I want to play for that club. Look what they do for players. But I don't feel like players. I don't feel like professional players do look at us and say, yeah, it's Burnley Football Club, but I want to play there. I don't feel like they get that vibe. I don't feel like I'm getting that vibe off players. I don't particularly know why. I've never particularly asked anybody and said, Burnley Football Club, would you like to play for them? It's obviously not my sort of thing, but it's one of them. I don't understand why we aren't a club that's what's the word? Sort of like appealing, yeah, attractive. I don't understand why we're not, and I think it's just because of the way that we always try and tiptoe around transfer fees and saving money. I think that's what it is, and I understand that to a certain extent. But as you've said, there comes to a point where you've got to push the boat out a bit to get to that next level.
Absolutely,
just don't push it out too far.
A lot of the players that players talk to players. It's not the olden days where you play for a club because you support them. It's the days now where you're just playing football and it's a job and you're moving left and right. And you'll often played with somebody in every team in the division. You know what I mean? You could have played with them at another club in the academy or whatever. And players talk, and everyone, well, probably 95%, and the 5% of your Ben Gibsons and the like, would always say they had the best time at Burnley, because you see it on TV. Yeah. And they say, oh, it was the best set of lads I've worked with. It was this, it was that. And I hear it myself from people that are at the club now and not at the club now. And there are attraction levels to playing for Burnley. And I just think it's the board that makes us unattractive.
Because, I agree with that. That's because, like you say, like for a young Championship player, when you look at the likes of Danny Ings, Andre Gray, Chris Wood, Tom Eaton, Michael Keane, who are either still at the club or have gone on to bigger and better things, like playing for Liverpool, for example, going to Watford, or not a bigger and better club, but on a lot more money than. Why isn't Benrahma or Watkins telling his agent to get in touch with Burnley and stuff? And like you say, as much as I do agree with the way the board do things to a certain extent, there's obviously the other side of it where I don't agree with it, where you've just got to start like, right, now's the time to push out, now's the time to make a statement, now's the time to make a marquee signing. Like, why can't we just pick off? I know a lot of teams will want to do it in the bottom half of the Premier League, admittedly. But why can't we go to Forest and say, Matty Cash, yeah, here's the cash for Matty. We'll have him. See in a bit. Ollie Watkins, there you go. We'll have him. Benrahma, he's ours now. And they'll all come in and say, because they know that these players in the past have gone on to bigger and better things. Danny Ings played for England. Heaton played for England. Pope played for England. Tarky played for England. Dwight McNeil's going to. Ben Mee should have done. I don't understand why it's not.
People will say, well, not all these players are going to be prepared to come from first team to sit in on the bench, and that's fine. But we're not getting to the players making the decision part. We're not even getting that far. We're getting to the part of Burnley making an offer and then denying him the offer because it was embarrassing the law. And it's just one of them. I think, invest in it. The club's exciting, and the only people that are slowing it down is, like you said, the board. And I'm personally thinking now that we should be investing and we should be saying, listen, we are going places, we are doing things. It doesn't always work, don't get me wrong, but doing what we do now as a last one as well.
Yeah, of course it does. Eventually your squad is going to age, and that's where we're at now. We're at the stage now where if we don't do anything this summer, next summer we're going to be in serious trouble because we need to start bringing in the younger players now. Then next summer when Bardo leaves and we have Louts and potentially another young right back there, they can play a couple of games, and then the season after that, Louts will start to knock on a bit, and then this young right back can start playing there a bit more. Same with Ben Mee and Tarky and stuff like that. And you need a new young left back, I think, as well, because Charlie Taylor, I think eventually he's going to be picked off by probably like a Leicester or something. Same with Dwight McNeil. Again, the same with Tarky.
I said this, didn't I, about Paul and stuff.
You've got to start buying. I think do it this season. You've got to start buying.
Absolutely. Reinvest it, appeal to people, because once you start getting names in, other people will be like, oh yeah, buzzing, I want to go and play there because so-and-so players there. And at the minute, the players, like you said, the age is probably not appealing to a lot. And then what else is it? Who's that young kid on sort of like attacking forward for QPR that everyone's raving about, working in Asda or something like 3 or 4 years ago? And all the Premier League clubs are looking at him, and you just think, like, they're the kind of... This is where we either need to invest in a better scouting system, because we should be picking them off last year, not this year when the Liverpools and etc. are looking at them. We should have been picking them off last year when QPR were getting them.
Yeah.
We need to sort of decide what our market is. Are we getting these young talents in, or are we having a bidding war with the rest of the Premier League?
Yeah, fair enough. I'll quickly ask a question to you, what I've asked our followers on Twitter and Facebook. If you do want to give us a follow on the social medias, they are at the bottom of your screen now if you're watching on the Vodcast. If you're not, I will read them out. So it's just TurfCast Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. Same name for everything, for obvious reasons. But I asked our followers on Twitter and Facebook, because like I said earlier in the podcast, Ollie Watkins, according to BBC Sports, can leave Brentford for £18 million after a buyout clause was activated following Tuesday's Championship playoff final defeat by Fulham. So, simple question. For £18 million, not just would you have him at Burnley Football Club, but if the fee is £18 million, would you have Ollie Watkins at Burnley Football Club, bearing in mind that he's a forward?
Oh, gosh, yes. But there's two parts to my story. Yes, because I would like that kind of player at Burnley. I would like that different type of player at Burnley that's got a little something extra, which something we've all cried about for 2-3 years now. But do I want to spend £80 million on a striker at this minute? No. But I would have him. I
think for me, I like him. He's a good footballer, and I see what you're saying. But right now, I'd say no, because as mentioned, our striking department, we have 4 players up there who can all do a job. So we don't need to be bringing in another striker, especially for that amount of money. Because if you spend £18 million on a striker, that's our new record signing for a start. So then the areas that do need replacing, such as wingers, right back, centre back, for example, are then going to be neglected because we spent £18 million. So then we'll have 5 strikers and only 2 right backs and 3 wingers. So again, I'd say no for now. But if it were a little bit less, 10, for example, then yeah, I'd do it and then invest in other areas. But I put it out to the people on Facebook and Twitter. And you responded in your droves. Thomas Durkin said he'd be better than Woods and younger than the rest of the strikers.
Wow,
These signings need to happen. So then Jonathan George responds. Yeah, Jonathan George just responds to Wood. Just says Wood. Sorry, Sam Taylor just says Wood. And Lee Glover. This is sort of like how I would have responded to that if someone said it on the podcast. He says better than Wood ? How many goals are you expecting our strikers to score exactly in the Premier League? 14 goals is very good. He might move to the Premier League and not cut it. Who knows?
Oh, we've seen it. We've seen it at Brighton. We've seen it at other players. They've done it. They pipped us to the post with more power, and it never actually paid off. And it's Chris Wood without an S.
It is Chris Wood without an S. Dean Crowder says 100%, but think he will go elsewhere. Rupert Boo says, if we can afford 18 million, would we be better offering that to Forest for Matty Cash? Dave Hargreaves simply just says, yeah. Hudson Parsons says we should buy him immediately. Ashley Stott says 18 million is affordable for us, but we don't need a striker. Right midfield, central midfield and centre back are far more important. That's exactly what we just said. I probably wouldn't necessarily agree with centre midfield because obviously we've got Brownhill now, but maybe another person. I've had a few people leaving, obviously to play backup. But again, it's whether you can get someone to play backup. Jordan Brown says wouldn't say he's much better than Wood. I don't think he's better than Wood, to be honest. And J Rod, Alfie Claw says after yesterday's performance, definitely not for me. That's a bit harsh to be fair because obviously he's had a good season. Just a few. Same with Brentford. They had a good season, but a few dodgy performances towards the end. They just bottled it. An interesting and controversial one from Tom Feely. Now, before I read out the responses to Tom Feely, I'll just get the tab up so I can see your response to this. I'll get it back because I forgot. Tom Feely says, instead of Ashley Barnes 100%. He's frowning. For those listening on the podcast, Simon is frowning. Really bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could. Do you know what? No, I'm not going to go in hard on him. I'm more pissed off at the people that would say he's better than Wood.
Yeah, he's not better than Wood. Wood is our best striker. It is that simple. The fact the goals prove it for the last 3 seasons. They just prove it. I think if I were going to replace anybody, personally, I'd replace Vidra. I don't want to replace Vidra, by the way. I'm just saying it if I had to. But Barnes wouldn't be too far behind him. But I think a lot of people, obviously, they're emotional about Barnes because obviously he's the shithouse and he's been here for so long. So I think when you take that out of it, he's not as good as he used to be. We have a very similar striker in Wood who's just better. So yeah, I'm not going to go in. I'm the same as you. I think the people saying he's better than Wood are the more controversial than people who are saying he's better than Barnes. A few people are just saying Barnes is out. Reece Jolly says, Ashley Barnes is our best player. He's better than Wood because Wood is shit. We'll leave that one there. Obviously, I'm pretty certain a lot of these people don't listen to the podcast because they'd understand that Wood isn't shit. He is easily the best striker that we have. And then Josh Taggart and Kian Lopriste, they go in a little bit. He says Barnes is not our best player and Wood is shit. But Reece Jolly says, well, he can be sometimes. To Josh says he's our best striker for fuck's sake. And then Reece Jolly puts, nah, sorry, but Barnes is my opinion. So there you go. People arguing.
I'd love to know the demographic of these people's answers. So, for example, the ones that say Wood, how old are these? How old is this demographic?
I think people who it's not just an age thing. I think I guess the younger people are more likely to say Wood is shit. But I think people, I don't want to say you don't understand football if you think Wood's crap because I don't like it.
We're not at that age, are you that age? Oh, you don't know football. We watch proper
you
football.
need to understand how teams play. You know what I mean? Like number one, Wood has outscored Barnes since he's been here, since they've both been at the club. So that just shows that he is better. And he's played for a good country a lot. Admittedly, Ashley Barnes is English, so he struggles to get in the English side. But he had the chance to get in the Austrian side, but, things there and stuff.
What happened with that?
I can't remember. Something to do with a passport issue. But then I think Barnes decided he might have preferred to play for England and stuff. I'm not sure. But what I'm saying is Wood has got the experience on the international level as well. He's outscored Barnes. I love Ashley Barnes, but I think people need to stop saying that Wood is shit. Because let's be honest, he just isn't.
It's baffling, but people baffle me. Many a time I comment, and I'm sure I baffle people in my comments. It's just opinion sport.
And that's why we have a podcast, because people like to discuss opinions. But as mentioned, if you do want to chat about some of the stuff we spoke about earlier, the question on which position you'd rather do, please go over to the Pitch Spot app now. You'll see my beautiful face. Yeah, thank you.
What position would you rather do?
Which one position would you? You know what I meant. Don't answer that question on Pitch Spot, by the way. If someone writes doggy on there, and I'll be fuming. 100% Robbie or Jared is going to do this now. Which position would you rather strengthen at Burnley Football Club? That is now available, or it should be available by the time you're listening to this on the Pitch Spot app. I haven't sent the question in yet, but I will be doing it after this podcast, probably after my tea, to be honest. But that's pretty much it in terms of Burnley content, because we don't have much else. Just quickly chat about the playoff final last night. Did you get a chance to watch it? Or...
I did. I only watched the second half onwards, I'm afraid, because I forgot it was on. Because
you know what? I remember the build-up around our playoff final, and obviously you're going to be more transfixed on your own playoff final, of course you are, but even last year's and the years before that and the years before that, you know it's on, and it is the media. You know what? It's the same with Liverpool winning the league, and it's the same with Leeds getting promoted. If them two things had happened in a normal season, we would have had to emigrate, because it had just been absolutely everywhere. Leeds fans, Liverpool fans, all smug as fuck. It'd have been well on. I work in Leeds, for God's sake. I've not seen anything about it. Honestly, there'd be yellow and blue and white ticker tape all over the city in a normal year, but. I'm the same though. I watched the second half. I listened to the first half driving into work, but I did forget about it. I just got in the car and TalkSport were on. I'm like, oh yeah, playoff final.
Who did you want to win?
Who did I want to win? I wanted Brentford to win.
I wanted Brentford.
Simply because I know they'd have finished bottom.
Yeah, that, and I think it's also a similar story to the Burnley one, innit? I think no one would have wanted us to come up that year that we did. And
they don't want us there now. We're here.
Premier League deserves clubs like Leeds, not Burnley, for fuck's sake. I remember reading that comment many a time when we got promoted.
Well, you know what? I've seen a few people recently because there's a few pictures doing the rounds of like the Premier. I put one on TurfCast actually. The Premier League lineup is now complete, and obviously you've got Man United in there, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, Villa now, Leeds now, West Ham. You know, a lot of big clubs, and then just plonked in the middle, you've got Burnley and Brighton, and a few people going, "Oh, for fuck's sake, this would be a class Premier League if you could replace Burnley with Forest and Brighton with, I don't know, someone else." And it's just, what do you expect? I'm not going to say it goes as far as saying it annoys me, but it used to. It doesn't anymore. Probably because I'm used to it, and I like the fact that we piss people off just by existing. Basically, we don't have to do anything, and people are rattled. We just exist. But what do you expect? Like, if you want the Premier League to just have the biggest clubs in it, then get rid of relegation. Just invite Forest into it, kick Burnley and Brighton out of it, but then it will be shit. It will not be as competitive. Like me and you, I don't want to slag the MLS off, but me and you like the MLS, but it's nowhere near as competitive as the Premier League, and it never will be.
Because if you're not fighting for the playoffs, the season's over.
Exactly, and the season's over, and if you can't get relegated, you're not arsed. You're not going. It's not that fight ain't going to be there and stuff. So having clubs like Burnley and Brighton in the Premier League, who, by the way, especially us, have a lot of young English players and up-and-coming English players and good English players. We do good for the national team as well. Like, what are you whinging for? Fucks me off. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Because, apologies, it's probably going to be around half an hour much now because we don't have much to talk about at the minute. I think we'll do another one next week. I know you said earlier on the phone we'll do a bi-weekly one, but this is episode 49. So what my plan is for the podcast now...
CD.
Yeah, what my plan is for the podcast now is to do another one next week, same time on Thursday, as usual, get to episode 50. Then we're going to go into our summer break. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to be doing anything.
I'm going to get my sombrero for next week.
Because we are. But we're not going to do the weekly podcast every Thursday. However, if some massive breaking news happens, like we sell Torquay, like Daesh leaves, like we sell Pope, like we bring somebody in, we will then do like a live reaction piece on the old YouTubes and stuff like that, and then we'll
breaking news. Burnley.
Exactly.
We'll have breaking news.
Exactly like that. We'll just do sort of like a reaction piece. So TurfCast will be out next week on Thursday as usual. If you want to keep up to date with everything that we're doing over the summer break by doing the live feeds and things like that, just follow us on social media. They're all at the bottom of your screen now if you are watching on YouTube. If not, they are TurfCast Podcast on Twitter, TurfCast Podcast on Facebook, TurfCast Podcast on Instagram, and on YouTube, you guessed it, TurfCast Podcast. But thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. Just maybe not so much after that. Bye.